Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the KSL.com Game Center podcast. It is Thursday, November 9th, and we are joined by Ryan Miller tonight from the road, I believe.
Yes, I'm chilling in Indianapolis, about to head to Memphis.
Very, very nice. Talking a little Jazz today. There's been quite a bit going on with the team. Despite some less than stellar results, maybe that the team is on a 4-game losing streak. 2-7 on the season. What's just kind of like the vibe around this team right now with the kind of a really unfortunate start to the season?
Well, I think the vibe was probably different after Chicago than after Indiana. The fact is, the Jazz decided to go to the future. The Keyonte George move against the Pacers wasn't just like trying to find a band-aid to say that. This was we gave a tenth of the season to Taylor Horton Tucker to see if he had what we thought he may have at the end of last season. He doesn't. And you know what? Keyonte George, every time he's been in the game, has been effective. The offenses look better. We're just rolling with him. Like if you would have talked to any of the Jazz front office, the Jazz coaches heading into the season, you would kind of hear the same thing. Like, this guy is the future. We just don't know when that will be. Turns out 9 games in, the future's here. We're ready to roll. And I think that alone just kind of gives a more excitement level to the team because, before you could almost like look at it and be like, what is the long-term plan here? Like, do I think Taylor Horton Tucker is the long-term solution? No, I don't think anyone really did, but you have to look at it. He's 22 years old, as big, as like great size. If he is going to be a point guard, can get downhill. Like, there are things you liked, and then you looked at all the things you didn't like, which was, the aimless drives to the hoop and not really great at passing out. And the offense just seemed to just go dead whenever he was in the game. Like, I don't think that was his fault. I think it was just like, not a great situation for him as a player. And so you didn't really see this long-term plan. And I think now moving Keyonte George in, it's pretty obvious. Him and Lauri Markkanen had already developed a pretty good two-man game with like in a small amount of time they've shared the court. So I think there's a little bit more excitement and buzz around the team now because they even the players can see like, okay, there is an end game here. This is where we're going. Yes, the Jazz fully expect Keyonte George to have a lot of growing pains. They expect some rough moments, and like from what I've heard, what I heard yesterday, they're going to let him play through them, and this is kind of his offense now.
Gotcha. And then to add to that excitement, we've got the in-season tournament starting for the Jazz tomorrow, and then going into next week as well. But before we get too much into that, in addition to Keyonte starting last night, the Jazz also unfortunately lost Walker Kessler officially for at least a couple weeks. And it's been an interesting start to the season for Walker, and I can't help but think that maybe this injury was kind of playing into what was kind of a lackluster start for him as well to the season. What was kind of going on with Walker Kessler?
Yeah, I think you can make that case now. Like we asked Will Hardy, almost a Quinn Snyder somehow. We asked Will Hardy that yesterday, and he said, he's like, Walker's never going to make an excuse for himself, but, it stands to reason it probably did play a part. Like, I looking back, the injury looks like it happened in just the opening minutes of that first game. If what I'm looking at is truly where the injury is, I should say. But so like if I had a sprained elbow, I don't think I would be as effective as at playing basketball. So I think you can probably make that case. Now there's some things like his timing has been a little off that I don't know if that necessarily plays into it. But you get I think Walker Kessler, after what he did last season, deserves the benefit of the doubt here. I think the one interesting thing with that injury is what they chose to do. Instead of going another big like a Kelly Olynyk in, they went with Ochai Agbaji into the starting lineup. And honestly, it raised some questions like, okay, can John Collins and Walker Kessler actually share the court? Because if you look at John Collins in Atlanta, every one of his like, oh my gosh, this guy's a stud years, he didn't necessarily have like a traditional big with him. And you saw that in those opening minutes immediately. Like he was so much freer. His rim rolls were like just so much more aggressive. He had room to operate, and he was really good. Like I wrote in the preseason, I'm like, for this to work, Walker Kessler is going to be able to have to stretch the floor to be truly effective. And I think that's the case, but I don't know if Walker Kessler can ever really become that 3-point threat per se that you can open that up. And honestly, like Walker Kessler's best role in offense also is a rolling big man. So it's like, so you kind of have to, you got two skills that are kind of on top of each other right there. And so I don't know. The Jazz will probably work something out. Best players should play, I think, but they're obviously we're one game into this whole new Jazz look, but it looked like John Collins was so much more comfortable playing the 5 than he ever had playing the 4 on this team. So it's something to look at when Walker Kessler does come back in a couple weeks, or at least a couple weeks. It's when he'll be reevaluated. So might be a couple weeks after that too. So who knows? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they like stagger those, because that's what they were doing with Kelly Olynyk and Walker Kessler in the first 8 games, is they were staggering their minutes essentially. Like, and I think Kelly is someone that can play pretty much with anyone at any time. And so I almost think you just start staggering him and Collins, or him meaning Kessler and Collins, and seeing if that works out a little better. But obviously they're going to have to share the court at some point. But I think they would probably want to limit that like based off what we saw yesterday. I think they should probably limit that. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It's interesting because like as beat writers, we follow this team so closely that like, after the Chicago loss, you would see it's like this. It's the same things that are just they were getting killed, like turnovers. They can't they can't defend that point of attack, and it just like you just go into a free fall pretty quick. Now, were those things all there against Indiana? Yes. Holy crap! This team is the leader of turnovers. The good thing, you look at Keyonte George and be like, he only committed 1 of those, so he isn't the problem there. That should him getting more minutes should actually help that. Point of attack defense, they've got a lot of work there. But I think if you're looking at it as a fan, you can kind of see there is this plan to go forward and to have this team that could potentially still be competitive this season. Yeah, but it's obviously been a rough schedule. A lot of road games. I don't know if this Jazz team, especially with how their defense is, it's like ranked number 27th in the league, will win a lot of road games. But like they do every year, they'll probably find a way to win 30 to 35 home games and be in semi-play-on contention towards the end.
There you go. And you mentioned a bit of a new look for the Jazz, not only in players, but we've got the in-season tournament starting now.
Well,
and there's some new looks on the court with the colors of the court. The Jazz are going to be playing on a purple court next Tuesday. What are your thoughts on the purple court?
Okay, here's my takes on the courts. I'm all for goofy fun, right? It's fun. Sports are supposed to be entertaining. I'm all for entertaining. My problem is when like they didn't think this through a little bit about like the jerseys to the court combos. Like I like last week watching Milwaukee, like theirs was more of like, I guess you could say a traditional court color. It was just painted weird. But like they still had the big green stripe. It looked cool, and they had the green jerseys that were on like the more traditional court color. So we didn't really notice that big of a deal. It was just like, oh, this is kind of goofy and fun, whatever. And then like we went to that Denver game, and it was like blue on blue, and it was like whatever. My eyes adjusted after like 4 or 5 minutes, but that thing was rough at the beginning. And I think the Jazz, you'll find that a little bit too. That purple on purple, it'd be like I know fans have been wanting purple is back type thing, but like that's a little too much for my liking. So we'll see. Like I think again, it's one of those things your eyes adjust, but it's a trip at the first. Like those first few minutes of these games, I think are going to be pretty like headache inducing. just like getting me a little dizzy. I actually, good podcasting. I'm actually trying to find Memphis's. I don't even know what theirs looks
Yeah,
like.
I did look it up,
Um,
and it's just gray. So
okay, see, gray.
yeah.
That's well, it depends. Like, are they wearing gray?
Yeah,
Like, what's their city?
I'm
What's
not
their
sure
city?
I'm not sure what the uniform is, but the court looks a little more basic, which is nice.
Well, it depends. Like, if they're wearing gray City Edition, which they probably will, because I'm looking up. It doesn't look. They're black, so they should be
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
Like like so like that, like 100%. Like you just need a little bit of contrast. I'm not like saying like white and whatever purple. It's just need a little bit more contrast. Like that Denver, that blue to blue was just oh man. And I don't know. I think like we walked like my first taste of like in person City Edition court was in Chicago. They
hmm
had like a section kind of laid out and I'm like, it's just so much red. Like, I think it's just a little too much. I love the idea of like we are going to make it obvious that this is a different game, that this is more important than a regular season game. I do like that idea that you can obviously see it. I think they probably just went a little too bold, which is, it's fine. It's the first try at it. I think it'll probably get cleaned up next year. But like, I don't know. I'm sure you watched Friday. Did you think were you more interested in last Friday's in season games, or was it just mad to you?
Oh, interesting. I think the courts definitely brought in some intrigue because you're like, I just need to see what this looks like on my eyes, and it wasn't. I'll admit, it wasn't as bad as I thought. And in some instances, it's almost, I don't want to say easier to watch, but it pops, right. Like it's almost easier to see where the players are because of so if there is contrast between the jersey and the court. The players kind of pop a little bit more, but I've it's been interesting to hear. I can't. There is an excitement around this tournament with the players, but I can't tell how organic it is. Like it almost feels like they're kind of telling the players, like especially Steph Curry had a moment where he was running out of the tunnel and he was like in season tournament time. And I was like, did they just like tell him to say that?
Well, yeah, and I think some of it's obviously that like Will Hardy shoot around in I don't know Chicago. I don't know where I am anymore. Um, but he heard me and Sarah Todd from the Deseret News talking to Walker Kessler about it, and he just comes up and he's like, "I want it on record, Commissioner Silver. This is the greatest thing that's ever happened to the NBA
Wow.
since the invention of the peach." Like, just obviously very sarcasm, but it's like
Yeah.
I understand. I think there is some like I think the players, the coaches, the teams, they've heard all the jokes of like, what are we doing here? That said, I think it's fun. Like again, you look at the Jazz, like they're 2-7, right? Like it's like, this has been kind of a drag of a regular season already. Now it's like you get to Friday, it's like, well, you get this thing you can play for. That's
Mm,
pretty fun. And I was a pretty big skeptic up until the groups got announced. And for
yeah.
some reason, like seeing it actually like on paper being like, okay, like it felt like almost like the World Cup draw, right? You're like, okay, well, how are things working? Like, and so there was a more. I think it's going to be fun. And like you look at Friday's games, they're all crazy competitive. So, and like the fact is, 500 grand is 500 grand, and I've seen players go like insane competitive wise for a $5 free throw competition. So uh, one, you get the competitive nature of it. You put something on the line, a trophy, anything. These guys are the biggest competitors in the world. They're going to care a little bit more. And $500,000 is nothing to sneeze at. So, like, I believe the Nuggets got less money for winning the finals as bonuses than they will and like than the in season tournament champion will get. So it's like
Wow.
that's legit. And like,
Yeah.
yes, like these guys are all multimillionaires, obviously, but like again, $500,000 is still $500,000. So it's like I think you showed on last weekend on the first few games that this is something teams will go after, and especially the teams like that may have not had the start of the season that they wanted. Now that they have, now there's like a kind of a reset thing where it's like, okay, we're 0-0 again on this thing, and let's go win this. And I'll see if it's fun. We'll see if it lasts. But I like I almost I wish that there would be a more team oriented I think the one issue with it is I wish there was a team-oriented goal, and I think that's what will make fans buy in a little bit more. Because I don't think the players have any problem buying in. Like,
Yeah.
single elimination once it gets to the knockout stages, like all of these things equal. Like when you get competitive people, they will compete hard for this. I think fan buy-in might be hard just because it's like, what's in this for us? Like are we going to raise an in-season tournament banner? Probably, but who cares? Type thing. I wish there was just like you earn something like a playoff spot or an automatic play-in spot or something should be like there for the fans to truly buy in. But again, it's the first iteration of this. I'm sure it'll be I think they'll figure stuff out along the way that will make it more organically cared about. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's fun. Like, I'll be honest, like I'm more excited about this game and going and watching it than I have the last 3 on this road trip, or even
Yeah.
the previous 8 of the season or 9 of the season. So it's like, I don't know. I think it'll be fun, especially how the schedule kind of broke out with the Jazz, with they're more or less playing their in-season tournament back to back to back to back. I think like their next 3 are all in-season tournament games, and they go one break and then the last one. So
Yeah.
like it's kind of like in-season tournament time. And I think that's fun. Or maybe it would be better if it was split up. I don't know. Again, we'll see. Like we were actually talking, like, would it be fun just to do these, like, say the NBA Cup, 4 of these NBA Cups, and all 4, like, if you win, each champion of the 4 gets a playoff spot, and that's how you determine the playoffs.
Ooh.
I think that would be fun. And then like whatever the top 4 other records also get in, so the season means something. But I don't know. I think that kind of stuff is fun and it's intriguing because like say that's on the line and one starts in March. Your season's never done. You're always got hope that
Yeah.
this like we can still make the playoffs. We still got a chance. I think that's the biggest thing the NBA needs to fix is just to feel that there's something worth watching every night, or at least to stay interested throughout the whole thing for a lot of fan bases. So I think that's like almost to that point. I think the in-season tournament might be too early because it's like, yeah, like even if you're 2-7, like the Jazz, I think their fans are still caring. So like, do we need it right now? I think it might be better if it's like middle of December to January type thing. Maybe have the championship like an all-star break or whatnot. I don't know. They'll figure it out. But I think it's a fun idea. I was a skeptic. I'm now kind of bought in because like whatever. Sports are supposed to be fun, entertaining, and it's like I think this will be fun and entertaining, if not a little silly, goofy, and unnecessary.
Exactly. So, like you mentioned, the Jazz next 3 games in a row are all part of this in-season tournament, and then 4 out of the next 5, including 3 games on national TV: 2 against the Suns, 1 on ESPN, 1 on NBA TV, and then against the Lakers in LA on TNT, like a week and a half from now. So it's a really interesting stretch for the Jazz. Like you mentioned, hopefully it can kind of be an opportunity to say, all right, we're just going to start over, 0-0. And especially tomorrow night's game, you mentioned like the competitiveness of it. Like they're playing the Grizzlies tomorrow, and these 2 teams have combined for 3 wins so far this season. So like they're just fighting for wins at this point.
And that's another thing with the in-season tournament. I think like when the like groups got announced, like you almost saw the Jazz one as like, oh, you would like. I know it was like half-hearted, like group of death, whatever, but it did
Yeah.
look pretty tough. You had like Dame Lillard, Ja Morant, like the Lakers, the Suns, like it looked stacked, and it's like so the Jazz looked like they were definitely number 5 of that group, and now it's like, well, Memphis is trash. Ja Morant's not going to play in any of these games. Like Portland, obviously, you know, blew it all up, and so it's like, okay, this doesn't look that bad. You still a game from Phoenix or LA. Like you can dream a little bit, and like I think that's fun. Like you can dream about going to Vegas, winning this cup, and also like why like I think one of the worst things is calling it the in-season tournament. The NBA Cup sounds cool.
Yeah.
Like what like in-season tournaments like what like I think it's mostly just like an explainer It's like this is what's happening because no one knows what the NBA Cup would mean at this point. But I think I would assume that will like transition into just calling it the NBA Cup in years late future. But we'll see. I don't know. But I'm excited for it. I think it'll be stupid. It's dumb. The courts are silly. Most of the uniforms are trash. But the games could be competitive, and it gives something to look at. I don't know. It's like
That's for sure.
I just wish it was in January. That's really my thing because January, as an NBA beat writer, is always the hardest month to cover because it's like, what are we doing? We are so like 3 months into the season, 3 months to go. It's tough, and so I wish it was just a little later in the season. But regardless, it's fun. Um, the players don't like I don't know, they just joke about what they'll do with the winnings mostly than anything when you ask them about it. But like but I think when that tip goes up, I think people are going to care quite a bit because again, a trophy is on the line, and people like trophies. So hey, go win a trophy.
You the song trophies. Yeah. NBA Cup on the line. Jazz taking on the Grizzlies on the road tomorrow, and then back here in Utah, take on the Trailblazers on that purple court. So appreciate you coming on, Ryan, and we'll see how our eyes handle these next few weeks with all the colors we're trying to take in.
It sounds good, man. Thanks for having me on, buddy.
Okay, see ya.